It's going to be a very, very intense journey.
Hello, Internet, and welcome to episode 95 of Frameskip, a video game podcast with three besties tonight. Riding a little short of full strength, but hey, we're happy to be here and happy to have you listening. Joining me, normally as always, Elijah, the loco lizard man himself.
Do you ever stop and just think about the fact that nobody owns the rights to the movie Dogma?
Because it was a Weinstein Company movie?
Yeah, and then the rights expired, and just nobody has them now. So, like, the movie is up on YouTube, and legally, nobody can have it taken down. But that's also why they've never produced any more Blu-rays or anything of it. Because nobody owns the rights, so they can't make it.
Really glad 19-year-old me got in and purchased a Blu-ray, because that might be technically like one of the most valuable resources on the planet now, right?
Apparently, the Blu-ray is worth quite a pretty penny.
I've never seen it.
It is perfectly fine.
Yep.
Great.
I think it's really cool to like Kevin Smith when you're 15. And I think it's really cool to have a soft spot for Kevin Smith when you're 30. But you should also just read some more stuff and watch some more things between those 2 years. That other sultry, seductive voice you heard, is someone who's not always here, but someone we're so happy to have. We got Seth.
Part-timer over here. 50% of the time, I'm here every time.
It's great, though, because since you're on contract, that means we don't have to pay your health insurance. So we're actually saving
that is
a bit
true.
of money.
Who needs health insurance in this economy?
Yeah, right.
I just want to say, I don't like a whole lot of Kevin Smith stuff, but I do like the show Comic Book Men. I thought that was a fun show.
Yeah, that definitely had its moments. I've been rereading a lot of Kevin Smith, actually. We're gearing up to do a Daredevil episode on Shortbox Summary, so I went back and started at the beginning of that Daredevil run that he did with Joe Quesada. It's really good. It's overwritten to shoot to high water. Sorry, I forgot. Austin's not here, and he's normally like I look at him and I remember to not cuss, but he's not here.
And then he'll give you the look of...
Yeah, and I just see him write down the timestamp of when it was.
There's some disapproving look, and then you just see him typing.
Yeah. But a little overridden. It feels like he's just kind of like channeling his inner Frank Miller, and I just don't know how I feel about that. I think you should let people write how they want to write and not always do a cover song.
I'm gonna say something, and it's gonna make a lot of people hate me. George, are you ready?
Bring it on, baby. Yeah.
Frank Miller is the most overrated comic writer of all time.
His Daredevil run was really good. I don't have a problem with Dark Knight Returns. I have a problem with everyone copying Dark Knight Returns. Like that's like the annoying part.
I have a problem with Dark Knight Returns 2 sequels.
Yeah, those weren't the best work. But also, I don't know. Like, I think you should be allowed to make bad art too. You know, like it's not like one of those things like take the pencils out of his hands. You know, like it's not like that. It's just like, all right, well, this doesn't mean nearly as much to me as the first thing he did. But also, I was 14 the first time I read Dark Knight Returns. I was very impressionable when I was 14.
I feel like it holds up pretty well. Yeah, you're absolutely right. You're allowed to make bad art. I'm also, allowed to say I think that he's not that great.
It sucks. Yeah. I really liked his Daredevil run, but that said, I've only read it once, and I haven't read it since I was in high school. But I thought like introducing Elektra, I thought all that stuff was killer. And Born Again is, I think, actually better than Dark Knight Returns and probably better than Batman Year One. But hey, this is a video game podcast, and I
we gotta nip that in the bud real quick.
Yeah. We could so easily just go down a rabbit hole. Elijah, I'm going to start with you. What have you been playing this week?
So, I finished playing through Bloodborne again with my friend. Basically, I platinumed it a second time, even though I couldn't get any more trophies. I just we played the entire game together. I also finally got the Resident Evil 5 Platinum. A friend and I played through that on professional difficulty, and that had moments of being hard, but also it was so much easier than I expected. The big thing I've been playing, though, is I played through and got the platinum in Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin.
How was that game?
Yeah, give me a quick 2-minute review of Final Fantasy Stranger Origin.
So, gameplay-wise, the game is really fun. It has the job system. You can switch different jobs, and each has its own special attacks, and, it has very Final Fantasy tropes in the combat, which is awesome because it's from Koei Tecmo. It's the team that made the Neo games. The story is, when it ends, it comes together and you see how it fits into being a prequel to Final Fantasy 1. Graphically, this game is, imagine looking at your screen and you have like a hand full of like Vaseline and smear it. And that's kind of what the game looks like.
Seth is nodding his head because he normally has a handful of Vaseline while looking at a screen.
That was a very descriptive. Vaseline kind of grosses me out. I don't know. It's a very eldritch substance. I don't like it.
I'm just imagining Cthulhu anyhow. But yeah, like the graphics seem kind of not even exactly blurry, but. And then I also had a problem, and I think it might have been patched out, where all of the characters were having like neon colors under their eyes when they're in cutscenes. So like you'd just see the characters and then just like neon blue on their eyelid underneath. It was
so like
really
Haley
weird.
Williams eyeshadow circa 2011.
I love Haley Williams so much.
No, her eyeshadow wasn't even remotely as bad as this. And Haley Williams circa 2011 was fantastic.
I really liked Haley Williams circa 2005, except in a lot of the music videos she would wear like Philadelphia Flyers shirts, which I didn't appreciate as a Bruins fan. But besides that, yeah, really formative part of my youth. God, those early albums were so freaking good.
Crash,
incredible.
Nothing compare. I'm okay.
So number grades are dumb, but if you had to give a number to it, let's say number for graphics.
Graphics, I'm gonna say a 5.
Okay.
Because like cutscenes are good and stuff, but the actual gameplay looks rough.
Gotcha. Number 4 story.
I'm gonna say 6.5.
Okay. Number 4 gameplay, like the minute-to-minute stuff you're actually doing with your hands.
9.5.
Awesome. All right.
The gameplay is fantastic in it.
Cool. Trophies.
Very easily attainable.
Cool.
And, I think I have like 25, maybe 30 hours in it.
Cool. All right. That answers my question.
And there is, I don't know if it's going to get patched out or what, but there's a glitch. There's a trophy for beating the game on chaos difficulty. Right now, that's like the hardest difficulty. You unlock it after you beat the game. Right now, you just need to beat one mission on chaos difficulty, and it gives you the trophy.
Oh, damn. So I need to buy that game right now.
Also, there is a mission that you don't even need to kill an enemy. You can just run past everything. You just search for a chest with this one item, and as soon as you find it, the mission ends. And it takes like 5 minutes.
Tight.
And you can keep leveling that up because there's another trophy for beating a level 200 mission. Because it goes by item level and not so much your character level. And you can just keep leveling that up and just do that one, gives it to you again.
I've heard people say that they think this is like a parody almost of Final Fantasy 1 and that it seems to be what's the word? The Power Rangers G.I. campy. It's supposed to be very campy. Or do you think it's just a really bad, they didn't mean for it to be campy? What's
Honestly,
your take on that?
I've been wondering that myself because half the time Jack, the main character, does stuff that you as the like player think, which made like so all the time like the bad guy will be doing like a monologue and eventually Jack just goes, "Oh, just shut up and start the fight." And it's one of those things where they're like, I'm just waiting for him to stop talking so I can fight. And it's like just different stuff like that. So it's like I can't tell if it's trying to be campy or not. And yeah, I don't know.
Can I just have a sidebar real quick about Final Fantasy?
Yes.
I have for years been wondering why Square Enix has been seemingly trying to capture more of the Western audience with their Final Fantasy games and make them more Westernized, because that is not what we want over here.
Yeah, it's not why the West started playing it.
Right. So, but I came across this fascinating bit of information that I think I've started to concoct.
Concoct.
Concoct. I
My
like
brain,
concoct though.
my brain just shorted out for a second there. This theory. So what I found out was, now I'm not an expert on this at all. I just heard this, is that the Japanese love, and this might be true for more Asian countries than I thought. They love Western, like culture, like fashion and music, and
Yeah.
like I guess country music is like massive in Japan for some awful godforsaken reason.
Taylor Swift is big over there. I call it. I can feel
So what I'm wondering is, what if this whole time they haven't been trying to capture the Western audience? They've been following the trend of Western entertainment culture and like being huge over there. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Like, what if they were actually just still focused on their own area? It was just that they were following a trend.
That's
I
a
was like,
really interesting
that makes
theory.
sense.
Yeah.
I can get behind that. Yeah.
Yeah, because like, it hasn't ever made sense, because like the more modern Western Final Fantasy games have never taken off over here. They've been pretty poorly received ever since they started taking this route. Probably starting with, I would say, Final Fantasy 13. Just a thought.
Man, the irony too of just like, I feel like video game nerds in particular like love Japanese culture.
Right.
So
Right.
that is such an interesting problem to find themselves in. I think
I
it makes
wonder-
sense. I don't know how to back it up or prove
Yeah.
it, but like I think that's
Yeah, it makes sense to me.
It's just something that I thought about, because it just doesn't make sense why Square has like almost bastardized the Final Fantasy series with 15, which I know is hit or miss with people, but clearly very different to what, more traditional Final Fantasy games were. And then now this Stranger of Paradise, which these guys straight up just drop into the Final Fantasy world with like Gucci clothes. You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't make any sense at all.
Please, they're
But-
not Gucci clothes. They're literally like Fruit of the Loom.
Okay.
Like
Fruit of the
Walmart, you bought a pack of colored shirts for $5.
Yeah. So
it's a good look though. Yeah.
It's not wrong.
It's really funny. I got a friend who I play Deep Rock Galactic with all the time, and his favorite video game of forever is Final Fantasy IX. And he loves platinums. Like, he has more trophies than I do. I'm always like chasing him in terms of platinum counts. And he has long said that like he wants the last game he plays to be Final Fantasy IX. Like, it's a little bit like Desmond from Lost. It's just like the last book he wants to. I'm saving this Charles Dickens book to be the last one I ever read. He's not Irish or Scottish. I apologize. I just slipped into it.
I do the same thing. My accents all run together.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
same.
I cooked dinner tonight. I might have had a beverage or two, so everything's blending together. And he was like, I told him, I was like, well, you actually have Final Fantasy 15. It's got a pretty easy platinum list. Like, there's like one tough like boss battle trophy that just takes forever, right? The Adamantoys, the
Yeah.
turtle,
Yeah.
right? I told him that, and he's like not excited to check it out, but I just think it's so funny that like he thinks the pinnacle of gaming was Final Fantasy 9, and like I don't think he's touched one since 12 because of the very thing you're talking about, where like it just did slowly become more Western appealing, I guess is
Yeah, I mean,
the
like
right way to
Final
phrase it.
Fantasy 15 is a Western. I mean, it's obviously not a Western RPG, but it's essentially in all gameplay and element focus,
Yeah.
like it's a Western RPG.
Man, they don't need
So-
to copy the gameplay. They just need to copy the Western menus, because I still think JRPG menus are like honestly the biggest thing holding me back from getting into it. Like, if it's crappy UI, like that's a tough sell for me. Like, if I'm going to be
Mhm.
spending so much time in menus, I want it to be like navigable and intuitive.
I can understand why that would hold someone back. For me personally, just because I'm such an RPG fan, like I love that, man. Like, I'm all about digging through menus and min-maxing my character, and making a strategy in turn-based combat. That's all. I love that.
Oh, I don't mind digging through menus. I just want the menus to be like more clear. Is
Oh,
is
okay,
my thing.
I see.
Like, I spent so much time in like the Skyrim inventory system, and like that I don't think is perfect, but it's like closer to what I think is like makes sense for the controller you're holding in your hand. But it always feels like, when you're on your computer and you're like trying to like make every window the exact size, like fit on the screen, just so you can like like have something streaming while like responding to an email, while also like having like your text up or whatever. And it just like you get like so cluttered and claustrophobic. Like that's how I feel looking at like a JRPG menu.
I think the worst one with that is probably Final Fantasy VIII. That menu system is disgusting.
That's funny because that's the game I've like probably spent the most time with Final Fantasy wise in the past year.
See, it can only get better for you.
Oh, perfect. Elijah, anything else before we move on to Seth?
No, that's really everything I've been playing.
Cool. Seth, have you been playing anything lately?
Yeah. So this past week, I've just put an insane amount of time into work. Pretty much all I've done is work and sleep and then go back to work. It's been exhausting. I'm at the tail end of that now. I've just got to go in tonight and then I get tomorrow off. But I played a lot more of Elden Ring, and I'm at the point now where like I'm at a crossroads where I'm kind of tired of playing Elden Ring and I just want to finish it. But there's also like this exploration part of me that's like, you need to go see more of this stuff, get these cool weapons that you keep seeing and whatnot. So I think I might just take a little break from Elden Ring, and I've been looking for something that's like more relaxing, not so like exhausting to play and high strung. Where if Caitlyn draws my attention, I die immediately. So I started playing BioShock Infinite again today, and I gotta say it looks great on PC with maxed out settings. I don't know if I'm gonna stick with it. It just when I'm playing BioShock Infinite, I'm like, man, this game really is special. Like BioShock Infinite is my favorite out of the 3 BioShocks.
Understandable, yeah.
I mean, obviously there's the time travel story, and I love time travel stories. I'm a sucker for them, but I hate it when they're done badly. See DC's Flash character for that. But other than that, I don't think I've been playing anything. I'm really like looking for something to play, but I haven't found it yet. And I think that might be because Chrono Cross, the Radical Dreamers editions, comes out on the 7th. And I'm just like, I'm ready to jump in. No, I'm not nervous at all. Like from everything I've seen of it, it looks great. And I'm really excited actually because Chrono Cross, for reasons that are too technical for me, has never emulated right. So the best way to play Chrono Cross is actually on a PS1, because when you upscale Chrono Cross, the characters' faces get like really jumbled and messed up, and the graphics start like glitching and whatnot. I don't understand why, but it's notoriously been the hardest game to emulate on PS1. And now they've gone back and fixed that, and the game looks really clean. It looks great. They redid the character faces in like the actual models and the artwork, and they've even touched up the soundtrack, which is, in my opinion, the greatest soundtrack in all of gaming. So I'm really excited to go back and play Chrono Cross again. I play it usually once a year. I didn't play it last year, but that is a game like I think we've talked about it in the past, like games that like we're absolute like masters at. I can beat Chrono Cross without saving the game. It's a 20-hour game, so usually I'd save, but I can absolutely like not die once in that game.
Damn.
So good at that game. That's all.
Before we move on to what I've been up to this past week, I want to ask Elijah, because Seth, I think you raised an excellent, interesting point. Is there anything in your life that you do annually? Like, is there anything you revisit culture-wise?
Once a year, I play through Resident Evil 4, straight playthrough. Just sit down, play. I think my best time so far is like 10 hours and 45 minutes. That's really it.
Yeah, I don't really do that with games. I haven't revisited a game like that. I'm like Skyrim is probably the closest one, like whenever it comes out on a console, but that's not annually. I used to reread DC's Crisis on Infinite Earths every year and Marvel Superhero Secret Wars every year, just because those were like two of like the biggest, craziest comic book stories. And so I used to like sort of ring in the summer every year doing that. Now the closest thing is like I'll rewatch Lord of the Rings like around like New Year's, and I'll generally probably like watch Harry Potter like around Christmas time. And every Christmas Eve, I rewatch Gundam 0080 because that takes place right around
Mm.
Christmas. And so that's those are my recurring.
I think the only other thing I have would probably be also a Christmas thing, where it's on Christmas Eve I watch Die Hard, and on Christmas Day I watch Nightmare Before Christmas and the Beatles' Yellow Submarine.
Very cool. Those-
You, for fun, watch the Beatles' Yellow Submarine?
I love that movie.
It's
Wow.
so experimento. That's British for experimental.
I would have never
Experiment-
guessed.
Experimento. Yeah,
Thank you.
you're welcome. I lived in Europe for a bit. Not everyone knows that.
I
know-
think it's crazy that we always think that like they talked like that back in the day, and that's how like we developed the accent. But realistically, they talked more like us, and they developed that accent to sound fancy. Like
Yeah,
back in
screw
the
those.
Revolutionary War.
Screw those weirdos with their hunting rifles and their raccoon skin hats. We don't need them.
I would say I can't really say anything because one of my best friends is British, and so like I find myself slipping into an accent all the time without even thinking about it. Like I'll just be at work and I'll say like, "Hey Megan, can I something or other?" And then she's like, "Why are you talking the accent again?" I'm like, "Oh, I didn't."
Megan,
realize."
I
Should
talk in
I
a
hold
British,
the lift for you?
I talk in a British accent constantly for fun. Is that offensive? Maybe.
Nah, that's fine.
For some reason, whenever I
It's a
talk to
fun
my one
accent.
cat, I always speak in a Scottish accent. I don't
That's
know
pretty-
why.
That's pretty funny.
Maybe your cat's Scottish.
I like that a
Yeah,
lot.
don't say.
Oh, look at that little wee lad giving himself a lick. Yeah.
That's great, actually.
Yeah.
All right, my dudes. I don't know how I found the time this past week. I slept probably like 4 to 5 hours a night, every night for the last week. So I managed to cram in so much stuff. I've been absolutely miserable. One, I finally managed to like edit an episode of Shortbox Summary. So it felt great to get an episode out after like a 10-day, 2-week hiatus. So that was awesome. Besides that, I got a 4-hour D&D session in yesterday. Felt
Attaboy.
amazing. I played some more Pokemon Diamond and Pearl. The more I play those games, the more I like them. I still think it's like I hate that art style. That's all I'm gonna say about it. I don't
The
want to be too
OG
negative.
or the remakes?
The remix.
Ah, I see.
Deep Rock Galactic, still going ham on that. I started Tunic. Tunic is a very, very special game. Plays great. There's all these signs in the game that's like a foreign language, so like you literally like don't know anything. And as you progress through the game, like you start to like understand more of what it's telling you. There's these collectibles throughout the game that's like literally the game manual that you put together. Really, really cool. I will say, I think that art style, that art direction was really, really interesting when that game was like first announced. What, 2015? I think that was E3 2015. Like I think it was the same E3 as Fallout 4. And it's just every other piece of art has like sort of caught up to like that minimalist, super clean aesthetic. And so like I no longer think that art style is interesting or unique the way it was when it was first presented. That said, it's still like obviously a very pretty game. The music's great, the combat's good, and it's you know, it's like, oh, it's hard. It's like, no, it's not hard. I'm just like not very good at it. Besides that, I also started Ghostwire Tokyo.
Ooh.
Tell me about it.
Yeah. I love it because it's like Japan, like the studio clearly wanted to do a first person shooter, but they just made it Japanese as hell. It is. I don't have like a huge tolerance or threshold for horror. So like I started playing this game at like 11 o'clock at night. So I only played like an hour because I was getting like too spooked out. Because like the two main villains in the first area are like these dudes in suits and umbrellas in a briefcase. And like I find that unsettling because they just have like, you know, completely featureless faces. And they just walk towards you with like really like bizarre alien anatomy. Like just like the way they move is just so unnatural. Like they did such a good job with like the actual like animations for that stuff. Because it's the fact that they made a walk creepy. I don't want to sound like ableist or anything, but like they figured out how to just spook that crap up real good. And the other enemy I see is like headless schoolgirls, which I also find super unsettling. And this isn't spoilers. This is like the first 15 minutes of the game. really, really good. And it is interesting because it is just like, okay, what if we made a first-person shooter? Well, we don't really like guns that much. It's like, okay, well, what if we did a first-person shooter where you shoot wind magic out of your hands? They're like, okay, now you're talking. And like, that's kind of what you're doing. Really, really cool, really bizarre. The one thing that's a little frustrating is the game's in Japanese. So there's like English subtitles down at the bottom. And that's fine. But like, there's conversations that happen throughout the game. And it'll happen during the action. So like I don't see that because like I'm busy trying to stay alive fighting these spirits or whatever. You know,
there's
like,
an English dub, right?
not in the game that I first started. I thought it was just Japanese.
There's an English dub.
Okay,
you
that's
switch it.
that's freaking huge. There was no option to do that I saw when I first started my game. I wish I'd done that.
I'm
Just
pretty
like,
sure.
Okay, I'm sure there is. I will double check. It seemed weird to me that it wasn't.
I heard them talking about it on Sacred Symbols. Apparently, you can actually switch it in the menus or something like that.
Okay, that's really good to know. But again, like it was just like frustrating, just like having a conversation between two pretty important characters that I just was not able to pay attention to because again, got to shoot that wind magic. But like everything is just like really interesting and cool and bizarre. And I'm excited to play more of that game during daylight hours.
I am so excited to play that this summer.
You're getting to it this summer?
Yeah. I
Sweet.
I originally was going to get it when it came out, but because of not having a PS5, I'm like, I'm not going to worry about it right now. And right now, just all my money is going towards PAX East and then the wedding. And then right after that, literally like days after we come home, is the Centennial case from Square Enix. And that same week is Vampire the Masquerade Swan Song. So I've got plenty to play there. So I'll get to it sometime this summer.
God, how is PAX East not the bachelor party? That doesn't make any sense.
God, that'd be a perfect bachelor party.
We didn't think of that.
God, we're dumb.
Or did we? I don't remember.
No, we didn't.
I got a few more things to talk about, and then we'll move on to the topic of the show. Guys, I watched my first WrestleMania ever this weekend.
I heard it was fantastic.
Oh, was it 2 days? Was it 2 days?
Yeah, they did 3-4 hours on Saturday and then 3-4 hours on Sunday. I never got into wrestling. I think it's like one of the most fascinating things I've ever seen. Just between like, it's so much more fun when you just like buy in and just like accept like the ridiculous fiction like happening in front of you. I think that's completely necessary. If you just go in thinking it's going to be dumb, you're going to have a bad time. But if you just sit there thinking like, I want to be entertained, I want to have fun, it's a blast. And like, I went back and I watched Royal Rumble 99 after because like all that stuff's just like on Peacock now. Oh yeah. And thankfully, my partner Leah, she signed up for Peacock so she could watch whatever that dumb show Kevin Costner. It's not dumb. It's actually really good. Yellowstone. So like we got Peacock, so she can watch that. And I just watched Royal Rumble 99, and I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna watch Royal Rumble 97, 98, and probably a couple random WrestleManias. Incredible stuff, super fun. I also watched 2 whole animes this week.
Whoa!
Oh,
2 whole animes in a week. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, they were 10 and 25 episodes, but still. I watched Gundam Build Fighters because I was talking about it with Elijah, and I told him that it was basically if Gundam and Zoids had a baby, and I watched it again to make sure, and boy howdy was I right. It is just, what was New Century Zero was the one with like Bit McLeod?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, it's just that with Gundam. It's incredible. It's awesome.
Excellent.
I also watched Katara Lives Alone on Netflix, which is about a 5-year-old boy who's just on his own inexplicably and moves into an apartment next to like this down on his luck manga artist. And I'm not saying it's like Ted Lasso, but I'm saying it gave me Ted Lasso levels of like optimism and just like hopeful and like sweetness. Great vibes on that show. Super awesome dub too.
Dubs have come a long way, man.
Yeah. Geez Louise. Yeah. I've been watching Gundam Wing, and like it's not even the dub that's bad. Like the script is just atrocious.
Yeah.
Elijah, I know you love Gundam Wing. I love Gundam Wing. I'm gonna tell you how much. Yeah. I'm gonna tell you how much I love Gundam Wing with this next thing I want to talk about. But like that, you have to admit that script is just a pile of dog.
Terrible.
My favorite Gundam series is Mobile Fighter G Gundam. Trust me, I understand.
Dance with me, Domo. Dance.
Undefeated of the East.
Have you seen my brother Kyoji?
Kyoji!
I'm looking for this man.
I love G Gundam too, man. It's my favorite.
Like, I love G
Another-
Gundam, but I totally get it.
Another atrocious, again, not even the voice acting. Bad direction, I think, and just absolute just dog.
For years,
Sorry,
I have been meaning to go back and watch it subtitled to see if the script is actually that bad or if that was
It
just
is.
a horrible. Is it okay? Never mind.
Yeah,
I got the DVDs. I'm super excited to check it out.
I recently-ish watched it again, and yeah, it's bad.
Who cares?
Right.
Giant robots punching each other.
Exactly.
Guys, speaking of Gundam, I've built 10 Gundam models since the last time we recorded.
What?
Oh.
You know how we were like, Austin was getting into Gunpla, and we were just like, yeah, man, like you're gonna have a super high after you finish it, and you're gonna want to immediately start the next one. Don't wait like a day or two just to make sure you're still in the mood for doing it. I didn't take my own advice, and I built 10 in like an 8-day period.
You're a madman.
I built an HG. So when I say HG, these are all HG, so I don't need to differentiate. But HG is like 1/144 scale, so it's smaller. It's a little bit more of a simple model. There's no like inner frame or anything.
Mhm.
And then master grade, you build the inner frame, which I'm doing right now for the Burning Gundam, which is just like one of the
Great
most.
kit.
Yeah.
No, it's infuriating. I absolutely
What?
hate it. Yeah, it's such a pain in the ass. I don't like anything I have to use a screwdriver with.
I don't
Yeah,
remember
that-
having to use a screwdriver for the burning.
You have to
Gundam.
screw together. You have to screw together the inner frame of the kit, and it's just. It was like one of the first master grades I think they made. It was from like the year 2000. I just don't personally love it.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
have it. The thing that you can be happy about though is that the kit holds together great
Yeah.
once you get it.
Oh, it's
yeah.
super sturdy. Yeah, that
Yeah.
part I am really excited
Very
about.
well
And it
balanced.
seems like the panels are going to pop off really easy, so I can actually like paint this one in a way that I don't feel like I can do with like the HG kits. Like I feel like I have to disassemble those. This I feel like I can just pop off, and that's really cool.
That's my favorite part of the process is customizing it.
It's really nice. I built a HG GPO3 from Gundam 0083. I built a Power GM from Gundam 0083. I built a Blue Destiny GM from the manga Blue Destiny, which is actually pretty solid little manga. I remember grabbing when I was in middle school. I built the HG Victory Gundam, which like I was so happy the first half of that kit, and then it started to suck. I built the HG Gun Tank from the original series.
Ooh.
That one's actually really nice. I like the treads on that. I built the entry grade RX-78, which I think was the first Gunpla that Austin ever built. I built the HG Messer, which like the torso of that kit is like one of the best model kits I've ever seen. The legs on that model are some of the best legs I've ever seen. The skirt armor for that is just the biggest goddamn train wreck I've ever seen. Like it makes no sense. It's so flimsy. Like I can't pose it at all. Like I can only stand it up straight, which is great because it's like a super tall kit. But god damn, that beefy boy just like can't move his legs at all. And then I built 3 HG GMs, which are like super early high grade kits. Those took like 45 minutes each. So I actually built like 3 of those in like a day. And it was so much fun. Like halfway through the second one, I like had memorized the instructions and built the third one without looking at anything because it was such a simple kit. And they got this really nice, like they're not white the way they look on the box or in the instructions. It's got like this really nice, like cool mint color on like what's normally like the white part of the suit. Really interesting. We're not sponsored, but newtype.us, go to that website, set up a wish list, and they will notify you as stuff comes back into stock. And so everything I bought was out of stock a week ago. I get the email alert, and then I immediately just sort of like pull the trigger on certain kits. And that has been my week. Next week, I'm excited to talk about Kirby. I'm excited to play more Ghostwire Tokyo. It's going to be freaking awesome. I'm back. I got my gaming vibes back.
Attaboy.
Hell yeah.
That's what we like to hear.
And now we're going to move on to the topic of the show. In a second, actually, I lied. Seth, you got something you want to say. You were moving your mouth.
Oh, no. Well, a while ago, we were talking about the Burning Gundam kit, and that was my second Gundam kit I ever made. But did you know there's a super rare gold version of that kit for when he's in hyper mode? It's hard to find. Yeah.
I've seen it. I don't love the hyper mode kits just because I feel like everything that's like gold plated looks really good until you have to like actually cut the plastic.
Yeah.
Because like I don't think it's like actually gold plastic. It's gold plated, right? Or like gold painted.
Yeah, the old ones are, but there is there's a newer master grade with a very Japanese name that's a gold Gundam, and that is actually gold plastic, and it holds together very well if you ever want
That's
something
awesome.
a little different on your shelf. Yeah.
Well, it's just like when you're cutting it off the runners, you know, like you get
Mhm.
like gold, and then it's just like a dark plastic bit from where you like cut it. And it's just like, oh,
Yeah.
buddy, that's not a great look.
So is that your first master grade?
Oh no, dude, I've been building Gundam models since I was like 10 years old.
Well,
This
I know you normally stick to the high grade line though. So
I stick to the high grade because that was when I was a kid. That was like in scale with like my Gundam action figures, like my mobile
Right.
suits in action. No, I've got like a. Let's see, downstairs. What do I have? I got like a high grade Nemo, high grade Wing Zero. I really want the high grade GPO2 from Gundam 0083. I think that's like one of my favorite kits, and I really want like the new Gundam Verka from Char's Counterattack. It a master
Verka.
grade. Is that not how you pronounce it?
No. Verka. I said that because like Verka are known to be not only hand grenades but like very in depth as far as like building. I haven't built a Verka yet. I'm too scared.
Yeah, no, I hear it. I'm scared of that. I'm scared of the perfect grades too. Those just look way too intense. And they're so expensive. I just don't want to.
Someday, I'm going to put down the money and grab the perfect grade Strike Freedom.
Oh, it's so big. It's so cool though.
It looks.
I'm at a point now where like I don't know what to do with my kits. They're all packed up and away. I have no idea what to do with them because like I don't want to put them on my shelf, but I also want to display them somehow, and I don't know.
I got some expensive bad news about what I need to do to fix my home. There's some leakage in the basement. And so I think we're just going to like rip the Band-Aid off and just like spend a lot of money and like waterproof. And then once it's waterproof down there, we can actually like finish the basement, get some like vinyl flooring down there. And then, oh my God, I'm so excited to unpack all my Gundams, all my Transformers, just have like a little comic book room down there. I am
be awesome.
Stoked beyond hell.
It'd be awesome.
All right. Now, are we ready to move on to the topic of the show?
Yeah.
All right. That brings us to the topic of the show. Let's freaking do this. Sony came out, I believe, last week and announced that there would be changes coming to their PlayStation Plus memberships. The PlayStation Plus and the PlayStation Now that you knew is no longer around. We are now getting 3 tiers to PlayStation Plus. First things first, PlayStation Plus Essential. That is everything current about PlayStation Plus. You get 2 free games a month, exclusive discounts, you get cloud storage for your save games, and access to online multiplayer. Great, dandy, wonderful. Everyone, if you have PlayStation Plus, you have PlayStation Plus Essential. And those prices are staying the same. I believe it's $10 a month, $17 to $24.99 quarterly, and $60 a year. Like, that's neat. Now we're getting into PlayStation Plus Extra. PlayStation Plus Extra has everything from PlayStation Plus Essentials, as well as a catalog of up to 400 of the most enjoyable PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 games, including blockbuster hits from our PlayStation Studios catalog and third-party partners. Games in the Extra tier are downloadable for play. That's wicked cool. That's just a combined PlayStation Now and PlayStation Plus. Wicked. Should have been combined a long time ago. Good job, guys.
Have they stated they're actually combining the service? Like PlayStation Now is going to no longer exist? Or okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is fine. Like we talked about this like ad nauseum before, but like I think PlayStation Now is like actually a great service. It's just the marketing behind it sucks. Like they just don't know how to sell it. But I think they're gonna sell it now. And then finally, we've got PlayStation Plus Premium. It provides all the benefits from Essential and Extra, adds up to 340 additional games, including PS3 games available via cloud streaming, a catalog of beloved classic games available in both streaming and download options from the original PlayStation, PS2, and PSP generations, offers cloud streaming access for original PlayStation, PS2, PSP, and PS4 games offered in Extra and Premium tiers and markets where PlayStation Now is currently available. Customers can stream games using PS4, PS5 consoles, and PC. And time-limited game trials will also be offered in this tier, so customers can try select current games before they buy. On paper, this seems like a win. On paper, this seems like a huge, long overdue change. I am not particularly thrilled about this, but I'm going to defer to you guys first. Who wants to tackle this son of a gun first?
Elijah, you go first.
So I am of 2 minds about this. First off, I am one of those people I like to own my games, so it's hard for me to really think about like a service where I'm basically renting them. But when I think about what it is, like what it's doing, I'm curious what the list of like PS2 and PS1 games, PSP games is going to be, because I'm wondering, are they the games that are on the PS3 store right now? Because since they obviously still, in a way, have the rights to sell them, I wonder if it's going to be them. Because I was trying to think of what they could be. The good thing is you can download them. That's the very good thing. Now, PS3 streaming, I mean, honestly, that's what we've come to get used to at this point.
Except, yeah.
But they did say, apparently they are looking into the possibility of getting an PS3 emulation running on the PS5, but it could take a while. And this is all from someone, like, they haven't said that. It's come from a different source that has like information about it. But we'll have to see. Again, it's I think it's a good service, don't get me wrong. And $120 a year I think is a very good price for it. It's the price of PlayStation Plus and PlayStation Now together. So it's like the same price. But you're getting more than PlayStation Now, PlayStation Plus has at the moment.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's a bad thing. But we'll just have to see what games are on there and such.
I have a lot of, like, a tornado of thoughts about this in my head, so it might just come out like diarrhea. We'll figure
Storm warning, baby.
Yeah, we'll figure it out on the way there.
Batten the hatches.
My immediate overall opinion is that there is no way to have any sort of gauge on how good this thing is going to be until they give us the game lists.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what this whole thing's going to be based upon, are the games good? And we know we're going to get some good games, but there is a lot of trash on the PlayStation Network as well that they could have thrown in there. My next thing is that this is a great way, and I feel the same way about Game Pass. If you are a parent of a kid who loves video games, this is a great way to get them an essentially unlimited amount of playtime for, a reasonable price. $120 a year is so cheap for the hobby we have. So that, I think, is a plus. The thing that bothers me is that we've been wanting backwards compatibility on the PS5 for so long, and we've been begging for it. And on the PS4, we were begging for it. I don't think anyone really understood why we couldn't play, like, our PS1 classics, at least, that we bought on the PS3 that were digital. They didn't work on PS4. And they didn't work on PS5. You can bring them over. But now Sony's like, all right, well, hey, we got this new subscription service. You're still not going to be able to play those copies, but you can sort of play them on PS5. But if you don't subscribe, they're going away. And I'm like, well, that's not really what we wanted, but at least there's access to those games. The next thing is, I'm concerned with the PS1 collection because a lot of the games that were standouts on the PS1 and PS2 were not first-party exclusives. The era of first-party exclusive bangers really came around in the PS3 era. Mm-hmm. So things like, the Castlevania games on PS1, your Final Fantasy games on PS1, stuff like that, those games are being reproduced at a premium, like Square Enix is doing Chrono Cross this week, for example. You're not going to find the original PS1 version of Chrono Cross on the service. I can't imagine that. Unless Sony did some weird trick with the selling rights, because it's still on PS3, they can just bring it over. I don't know. I can't imagine that you're going to see games that any publisher has any intent on reproducing, upscaling on the PlayStation Network. So that I have a concern with as well.
Wait, sorry, really quick. That would be nuts if that was Sony's solution. I honestly never considered that until Elijah brought it up and then you finished that thought. But like, you remember on Wii U how like if you put a Wii game in, it wouldn't play through the Wii U. You had to like literally boot into like safety mode of the Wii.
Yeah.
What if
Yeah.
that becomes the PlayStation 5 emulation where you just boot into like a PS3?
That's exactly what's going to happen, because when you play through PlayStation Now a PS3 game, it actually is running a virtual machine of the PS3.
That's low key too. Like when you play like a 360 game on
Mhm.
Xbox
Mhm.
Series X and Series One, like or Xbox One Series X. That's honestly like low key super cool, but also really annoying because like none of the buttons, like
Yeah.
when you like
Yep.
press like the actual like Xbox button, like to try to add a friend to play like Gears of War with, like you're like, okay, crap, how did I do this 15 years ago?
Some other thoughts. Listen, they have to figure out PS3 emulation. There's almost no excuse for it at this point. There's communities online that are making not perfect but working PS3 emulators. We're talking about Sony here, guys. Like, put out something that allows PS3 to be emulated. I refuse to believe it can't be emulated on modern hardware. I can't imagine that's the case. Other than that, I mean, like I said, I think we really have to wait to see the games list. I was kind of hoping Sony wasn't going to do this, because I was hoping they were going to take like the Apple approach and just stand their ground and be like, no, actually, the exclusives we make are of such high quality that you're going to come to us. But I think they've been getting kind of battered around recently, and they probably had to do something to compete with Game Pass. Now, they did say that day and date exclusives are not going to be on this PlayStation Plus system. So you're still going to have to buy the exclusives. But I think the general knowledge is going to be like, they're going to come eventually.
Yeah.
But I did like that premium feel to Sony's games, which is like, you're not going to get a game like The Last of Us or Ghost of Tsushima on these other systems. That is a premium PlayStation experience.
Bespoke. Yeah.
So I was kind of hoping they were just going to stick their guns to that, but that's
I mean,
really
I
all
don't
I
see
got in
that
my head.
changing at all, though. Because,
Well, I mean,
they do that with PlayStation Now right now as it is.
Yes, but like in my opinion, that was like their whole platform was like, hey, we don't need subscription services like that. We have our like exclusives that carry our system, and they're so good, you want to come here.
Look, I'm looking at a list of PS Now games that are out right now, and Dark Sector's on the list, so PlayStation Now is actually worth it already as it is.
All right. That game doesn't even have a trophy list, Elijah. I don't want to hear it.
I know. Makes me sad.
That and Haze.
Is one Chanbara on
Freaking
PlayStation Now?
Haze. Let's see.
Elijah's
I need to get the new. It's funny.
greatest game.
It's funny you mentioned that. Just talking to my one friend yesterday,
Oh my god.
and
so
Oni Shambara
bad.
Z2 Chaos is on, but
Oh my god, that's a
not
joke.
the newest one,
Jesus.
Oni Shambara Origin.
Jesus Christ, Elijah. I am really excited that they're finally coming up with a competitor to Game Pass. I think that the industry is like way more fun and way more interesting when they're competing, like between Xbox and Sony. Nintendo is just kind of like off doing its own thing. But much like Nintendo, I find this solution to be extremely frustrating and extremely greedy. Like, I guess I think I cared more about games during like the 360 PS3 Wii era. Like, I think that there was like really interesting stuff coming from Sony, really just like solid stuff coming from Xbox. And when I say that, I mean just like in terms of like hardware reliableness, just because like there was a time when every like, you know, multi-platform game just like generally played better on 360 than it did on PS3, you know? So PS3 was kind of my exclusive machine until they more or less nipped that in the bud, and then I just started gaming everything on PlayStation. And then we, again, just like the Switch, was just kind of like doing its own weird thing. But the thing I don't like is I don't like how expensive nostalgia is becoming. You know, like I don't want to pay $120 for my childhood a year. Like that just seems like a lot. And if I have to subscribe to one more service, I said this before we even started recording, like I'm going to lose my goddamn mind. Like I'm just so sick of like losing money every month for something I don't own. And there's just so much stuff. And like, I easily talk myself into it, you know, where it's just like, oh, PlayStation Plus, need that so I can play online with friends. That one I can justify. Oh, Hulu. Okay. Netflix. Okay. HBO Max. Okay. Peacock. Okay. Disney Plus. Okay. 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 And like, I understand that these are presented more like services, but like, god damn, Nintendo, like, how much money did I give you on Wii U for like the same games? You're now charging me like
Exactly.
a monthly rental fee. Like, get the hell out of here, man. Like, I spent hundreds of dollars on Wii U digital titles, and I can't even play those games now. Like, and I know for a freaking fact that like you can do it. Like, I know you can do it.
Exactly.
And that's what like really chaps my ass about this, man. Like, I spent thousands of dollars on PlayStation 3. And the fact that they're like considering this, I'd almost like it more if there was like no backwards compatibility, to be completely honest. Like, as dumb and counterintuitive as that sounds, if they just like planted a flag, they're like, no, from PlayStation 4 forward, that's when it happens. And I would rather like, okay, select games will get like HD remasters. Like, okay, fine. Like, I guess I can live with that. But to give like this piecemeal solution, I find borderline offensive and just infuriating. And I'm going to subscribe to it because like I'm an idiot. And like Seth said, like $120 a year, that's $10 a month. That's half the price of Netflix. That's 2/3 the price of HBO. It's like who am I to like say no $10 a month for? You know, like you suck it up, you eat a lot of one paycheck, and then you got games for a year. Like that's great, you know? But like, goddamn, I'm just so sick of everyone like commodifying everything that I used to enjoy. Like, I feel like people go out of their way to make cool things not cool anymore. You know, like they just take all the mystique, all the interestingness out of these things because they figured out a way to make some more money off it. And it's like, bro, like this sucks. Like this really sucks. Again, I'm going to do it because I'm an idiot. But like, it's just really unfortunate when like this thing that you loved so much. Same thing with like the Marvel movies, to be completely honest. That's why I'm getting a little sour on the MCU. I loved Moon Knight, by the way, just because it seemed like it had nothing to do with the MCU whatsoever. So I was really happy to have like a fresh intro. But it's like, you know what's more important? The next one. Like the first 20 minutes of every movie is important. The last 20 minutes of every movie is important. And then it's like, oh man, it's gonna get nuts in the next one. It's like, when is it gonna like? When's the nuts gonna stop? When are we gonna stop nuts? Like, when is it over? Like, when? I'm going off on too many tangents here, but that's how I feel. And I'm gonna kick it to someone else for.
No, it's funny you bring that up because that just happened with like Pokemon cards. Like, it's not fun to collect Pokemon cards anymore because it has become so greedy. Not just from like, you know, the Pokemon Corporation, but like, dude, it is insane. My Walmart released like it had to be their back stock of Pokemon cards. It's all the old like versions from the last 2 years, the sets, and I bet there was 600 packages on the shelf like 2 days ago, and when we went this morning, there was nothing there, and I was like, oh my god, like. And these were all people like reselling them. I'm like, this is just, I don't even want to do this, man. Like, this isn't fun.
It's when it's like the actual joy is not as important to people anymore.
Yeah.
And that's the problem.
And like, just to be clear, there is absolutely no reason why your PS1 classics that we all spent a ton of money on cannot just run on PS5. No reason whatsoever.
Yeah, you know how we know that? Because they played on PSP, because they played on Vita.
Yeah.
Tell me they can't figure that crap out for PS5. Like, I go into my downloads list and I see these games on like on these consoles. Like, they're there.
Yeah.
I don't understand it whatsoever. And Seth, I'm so glad you brought up Pokemon cards because like it's so frustrating. Like, to bring it back to the other nerd stuff, but it's like I'm so sick and tired of finding out about like new action figures from going on Facebook Marketplace and seeing them marked up 30% from what MSRP should be for like a Marvel Legends or a Star Wars figure, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah. Reselling is like such a awful, greedy like industry. And I understand like everyone's trying to make their money, man, but we just saw like PC building crash the last 2 years because of resellers of GPUs. And then like I started collecting like the SH Figure Arts Dragon Ball figures, and when those figures go for pre-order, they sell out within 2 minutes. And it's like, God, like this, it makes this stuff like not fun, man, just because it's so crazy. And I just want to be clear, like the only reason that your PS1 games do not work on PS5 is greed. Sony needed a marketing point to sell for this service, and they threw that in there. And it's like, well, you probably could have done this from the launch of the PS5, but you were waiting for a good time to release it. Now you have one. It's like,
let's be clear. If they like tweak these games, I wouldn't want that. Like, I want to experience these original games. You know, like I don't watch like, was it Nosferatu, like the original like vampire movie, thinking like, oh man, these graphics suck. Like that. No, man, it was a silent movie made in like 1920 something. Like, of course, like the frames are skippy. You know, like I'm willing to accept that. Hey, frame skip. We said the name of the pod.
Yeah.
the thing.
But like Nintendo, to their credit, is like, okay, we brought online multiplayer to Super Mario Kart. I'm like, okay, like that's neat, you know? And I think it's more interesting now what Nintendo's doing, where it's like, okay, Animal Crossing New Horizons DLC, free if you have Nintendo Online. Mario Kart 8 DLC, free if you have online. You know, like that stuff to me is like, okay, that I think is really cool, especially since we got like Splatoon 3 coming out this year. Like I assume all that stuff is going to be offered through that service as well. But like, man, to just like offer us the stuff we've already bought, completely unchanged, completely unimproved. Like, man, can you imagine if there was like a trophy list for like the original Resident Evil, like the PlayStation 1 Resident Evil, Elijah? Would you lose your goddamn mind? Like, would you go bananas for it? Yeah, they're not going to do that, man. Like, that sucks, right? They're going to charge you recurring fees. Even if you're not playing that game, they're ostensibly charging you to play. It's like cable, where you're 80% of your bills for channels you don't watch, you know? And it's just, god damn, like, how did this become the norm? It is beyond frustrating that, like, this is going to happen to everything. It's going to happen to everything. And there's, like, no stopping it because, holy crap, do their numbers go up every fiscal quarter, man?
Yeah,
and it's,
absolutely.
And to the resellers, like, hey, quit playing baby games. Quit buying my Star Wars figures. If you want to make money, like, buy a goddamn stock. You know? Like,
yep.
If you're interested in turning a buck, do that. Stop buying out the goddamn retro collection for Marvel Legends, you turd.
It's so sad to see like PlayStation Classics, for me specifically, be soured in this way. And again, like if you've never gotten them, this is a good way to do it, right? But for those of us, the millions of us who had huge libraries on PlayStation 3, the PlayStation Classics were a game changer, because before that, the only way to play PS1 games was to have them physically. And there was a limited number of them produced, right? So you had the popular ones that weren't even rare. Like Final Fantasy VII was going for, I specifically remember this, $80, right? And that's like a greatest hits of Final Fantasy VII. If you wanted a physical copy of it, which is the only way you could play it, $80. Once that digital version released on PS3, it completely crashed the scalping market for the PS1 games. And there was like some games holding on. Like I remember Breath of Fire 4 held on for a long time, but eventually they all crashed because people no longer needed them to buy or to play the game. And now we get to a point where like retro prices are skyrocketing once again because of that same situation, where like no one's gonna boot up their old PS3 or, you know, their PlayStation TV or their, you know, like the new generation hardware for some reason still isn't playing these old games. We've already been through this cycle once, and now it's like, all right, well, you know, just buy them again, whatever. It's like, oh god, like you guys need to relax.
Yeah, so I got a frustrating story. One of my favorite like PS2 games of all time is called Gundam Federation vs. Zeon, and it is not a good game. Like, it's just straight up not a well-made game. But it lets me play as a lot of different Gundams, and it lets me play through the original 1 Year War. It lets me do it from both sides. That's freaking awesome, man. Like, I love that. I'm actually going to start streaming that once I figure out how to stream. Very excited. There was another game on GameCube that used that same exact engine. That game is called Gotcha Force. And I really have always wanted to check it out just because I love the feel of like that jumpy arcadey shooter. And so this is a Capcom game that released on GameCube. This game in 2013, right? Complete in box, $65.99. It's like, okay, that's a little steep, but I guess I get it. Complete in box now is $564, like for a GameCube game, and
That's
it's like Nintendo.
crazy.
Actually, all you have to do is just like open your crap up, man. Like, I guess, how would you feel? Okay, question here. Let's say you don't rent these games, right? On PlayStation 5. Let's say you rent the emulator, like access to the emulator. That would be infinitely more appealing to me.
Yes.
You know,
Yep.
like if you, it's like, okay, so the Essentials tier, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5. You just like, you get those games. Like that's digital. That feels a little different, right? But then like at the medium tier, the premium tier, it's like, okay, now you get PlayStation 1 emulator included. It's like, okay, now we're talking. You can play all your old disc. If you own these games digitally, you can get that. We'll have like flash sales or whatever, you know, like we'll open the store back up. Like that to me is like way more friendly, I guess, to consumers. Obviously, they're not going to do that because they can make so much more money not doing that.
Also, here's a fun thing. It was discovered the PlayStation 5 disk drive doesn't read CDs. Like it
Really?
just doesn't read them. Like it like they did a test and it doesn't acknowledge that it exists.
That's interesting. I didn't know
Well, that rules out PlayStation 1 games.
Yep.
Okay.
that.
And that's why I was with you. Like it'd be great if, like you said about the emulator, but PlayStation 1 it literally wouldn't work because of the drive that's in it.
That's
Well, I was just thinking, like, God, it would be so freaking cool, man, if I could just like buy an external disc drive for my Switch and just like load up GameCube games through it. You know, like,
Mm-hmm.
God damn, like it used to be so inclusive, and I say that meaning like the Wii played every Nintendo game that had ever come out at that point. You know, like digital rights pending, digital rights allowing. The PlayStation 3 played every PlayStation game that had ever come out. And the Xbox 360 played every Xbox game that had come out. You know, there was like a handful that didn't work. And that was pretty much it. And I guess I just don't understand how, like, in 10 years, we went from, like, no, we're actually going to give you, like, it only does everything, to, like, okay,
It does a bunch of things.
we're going to charge you at the door. And it's
Yeah.
just like, come on, man. Like, I just, it's the fact that it's, like, the nostalgic stuff. And I'm not saying I won't be nostalgic about PS4 games and PS5 games, like, years later. But I'm not nostalgic for them right now because they're pretty recent to me. But like, I am nostalgic for that stuff, and it's like nostalgia is a drug, you know. And it's just like it's infuriating that like they've got the cure and they've figured out the way to maximize the most amount of money out of me for that. It sucks.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is too is that you're kind of stuck, man, because you and I don't think people realize that how dire this is. Like gaming history is at like a crossroads right now because you can say right now, right? I can tell you, hey, if you want to play those old games, go buy them at the store, chalk up the money for the retro, right? Like PS1 versions, and buy yourself a PS3 and play them. But in 10 years, that's probably not going to work. First off, you have the new problem that a lot of retro collectors are concerned about called disc rot, where your discs literally fall apart, right? That's an issue. Whether you play them or not,
Yeah.
they literally fall apart. The next is like, dude, PS3s are not going to last forever. They are no longer in production. Those parts are going to age, and you're going to find less and less working PS3s. Especially because like old retro systems had very few parts to them compared to like a PS3, right? But a PS3 is so much more advanced than something like a PS1, and it requires all these parts that are going to degrade with time, and it's just you're gonna lose access to that eventually. It's not gonna be around forever.
Mm-hmm.
So eventually, you are going to be forced to play these games through services like this, and I'm afraid personally that when that time comes, if we don't have these games correctly archived, they could just be lost forever. There's a lot of games that could be lost forever just because they don't sell.
it's so weird how unique a problem this is to video games too, right?
Yes.
Like we were talking about Dogma earlier, and it's like, yeah, man, you could probably buy that one digitally for a long time, and if you have that, then you have that. Good job. You had access to the DVD and Blu-ray forever, but like Elijah said, like, oh yeah, it's just up on YouTube now because like no one could stop it. It's like, okay, that's a solution. It's not like a perfect ideal solution, but like it's at least a solution,
and it's available for everyone. It's not like hidden behind something. It's just there.
Yeah. And so it's just like, can you imagine like if they just like, oh yeah, actually we're out of Moby Dick. Like we just can't print Moby Dick anymore. Like we ran out of the words used to make Moby Dick. I was like, what? That doesn't make any freaking sense. Are you serious? What does that even mean?
Yep.
Like this is the only art form where this is like a problem. And like gaming is an art. Like gaming is like literally like the tree rings of our understanding of like building fictional realities. Like it's just like such an insane, unique prospect that is so fragile in terms of like everything. And oh god, it's just infuriating. Like all these billionaires are nerds, but like why can't a billionaire nerd invent something that just like, okay, we actually like, here's the deal. We made like an all digital PlayStation 3. It has a disk drive. You can't read anything off the drive. It reads the disk, it wipes the disk. So you can only do this one time. But you put the game in and it just copies it to a hard drive. Like that's like the ultimate like dream solution.
Right.
Just to preserve this stuff. Like I'm genuinely considering buying a PC just to start ripping games and creating like ISO files just as like a backup, because it's like, no man, I've actually spent like quite a lot of money on this stuff and I want to make sure that there's at least like some record of it,
Right. Yeah. And, like I said, disk rot gives you a limited time to do that because we don't know how bad it's going to get or, how things like the PS2 and PS3 discs are going to handle that, but it's coming. And there could be a future where like that Gundam game you love so much is just unavailable forever. It's just gone.
Yeah.
And that's a rough situation, man. That'd be a really sad day. So
yeah.
I don't know.
And it's video games, like I understand it's not like, oh, it's not like the world is ending when this stuff goes away, but it's like, all right, like it's video games, yes. But like, think about making that excuse for anything else. Like I said with Moby Dick, or like, oh no, we're out of the colors to make Mona Lisa. Like no one can ever see the Mona Lisa again. Like it just doesn't make sense in any other medium. So I don't understand why it's acceptable for this one. And I really think it's because it was seen as a hobby and not an art form for so long that like people are just sort of like slow to coming around to it. And it's not just a hobby, like hobbying is playing the games, but hobby is not the games.
Right. Absolutely.
That I think about wraps us up. Elijah, Seth, any closing thoughts?
No,
I'm
this
good.
is a good episode.
Yeah,
this was a good episode. This is nice. I don't think we've actually done one that was just the specific three of us in a hot sec.
Yeah, I don't believe so.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was episode 95 of Frameskip, a video game podcast. You can reach out to Frameskip on Twitter. That is at FrameSkipPod. Please hit us up with any questions, any comments, any concerns, any criticisms. Most appreciated. Just be cool about it. Don't be a... You can reach Elijah on Twitter at LocoLizardman. You can also catch Elijah streaming on Twitch at LocoLizardman. Elijah, what are your streaming days?
Friday, Saturday, and Sunday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern Time.
Cool. Be sure to check that out. Sounds like he's getting back on that Elden Ring train this weekend. Choo. All right, Seth
buddy.
Can be found at Seth the 90s Kid. Don't follow him.
Nope, don't follow me, please.
Whatever you do, don't follow him. Actually, if you want to say anything to Seth, you say it to me and I'll relay it to Seth.
Yeah, you tell George, he'll tell me.
Yeah. Some fun news, Shortbox Summary, the comic book podcast I do. We're gonna have Seth on pretty soon to talk about Amazing Spider-Man. Was it 519 to 524? Were those the issues we read?
That sounds right. Yeah.
We're also going to talk about Marvel Knights, Spider-Man 1 through 12. We're also going to have Elijah, Austin, and Seth on, I believe, right, to talk about Young Avengers 7 through 12 and Young Avengers Special. Also, I don't want to jinx it, but I've been emailing with someone who was pretty important for Young Avengers, and I think I'm going to get them on the podcast as well as like a follow-up sort of like coda talking about that Young Avengers series. So look forward to that at Shortbox Summary. That's where you can reach me at PurpleBird616 on Twitter. You can reach Austin at Austin J. Eller on Twitter. And you can reach Coach by messaging Elijah Austin or myself into it, we'll text it to him. We'll let him know. Thank you so much for listening to Frameskip. We will be back next week with some more exciting game news. Until then, smoochies.
Bye.